Good day, my dear friend. Welcome back to the conspiratorium, as it were. I'm glad you could join us. I have deliberately avoided this topic for a long time because normally, I do not care about personalities per se and ad hominems. And I hate turning commentary and analysis into soap opera. But this moment is too rich, too illustrative, and too instructive, especially to our young friends, to ignore. Again, especially for our young podcasters, because it is a live case study in how not to lose your mind and your soul in an emotionally volatile business where money, pressure, audience pressure, a lot of pressure, ego pressure, and fear all collide at once. And what we are watching is not a disagreement, not a policy split, not a healthy argument or a contretemps, but a public unraveling contrasted against composure because Candace Owens stays calm and precise and disciplined while, and this is true, while Tim Pool appears to have lost his bloody mind, trapped inside his own contradictions. And that contrast matters because credibility is not built on volume or rage or theatrics or vile, misogynistic obscenities towards a woman. Are there no gentlemen left in this world? But it's built instead on consistency and facts and restraint and maturity. And when Candace speaks, she names timelines. Oh, she's not beyond the occasional, nah, but not like this. She explains processes. She sticks to verifiable reality. While Timmy the Pool in the gene pool shifts narratives in real time, moving from saying she has no meaningful security to suddenly insisting she shared Charlie Kirk's security, which cannot be both true. And that kind of, whiplash doesn't come from confidence, it comes from stress. And stress is always, my friend, louder than truth. If you listen closely, and we hear behind the scenes that this stress may in fact be financial as much as personal, with sources whispering and suggesting that a steady stream of overseas funding, perhaps, that once quietly fueled an operation, slowed, and then stopped, leaving fixed costs and debts unanswered and calls and a sense of panic setting in. And when that happens, and it happens in the business, listen, it's not the first time. I mean, this is what some people are hinting at. Rumors abound. It certainly is a hypothesis consistent with reality. But when that happens, sometimes predictable behaviors occur. And people stop informing and start provoking because clicks and money become oxygen and desperation breeds baiting. So a cheap shot gets lobbed at a far bigger A-list female podcaster in hopes of drawing traffic and relevance and rescue. But you see, she ignores him. And that silence exposes the play, because without engagement, the contradictions sit there naked and ugly. And instead of evidence, we get vague threats of litigation or hints of secret meetings and promises that something big is going to happen. Something, okay, fine. How many times have you heard that? Something big's going to happen. Well, yeah. It's like when the weatherman says, chance of rain. Yeah. yeah, partly cloudy. Well, yeah. That's not exactly going out on a limb. See, this is always the language of panic, not preparation. And Candace, albeit not perfect, doesn't perform hysteria. She explains how lawsuits and litigations actually begin, how corrections are requested, how facts are challenged and documented, and that refusal to play the emotional game, that refusal is, interestingly enough, exactly what terrifies collapsing media operations. Because, my dear friend, clarity invites accountability. And accountability is fatal when cash dries up. And the security debate itself tells the whole story because basic fundamentals are questioned. Access, sightlines, walkthroughs, drones, oh my God, all this stuff. And statements that crumble under minimal scrutiny and asking about certain failures. This isn't extremism, it's responsibility. And the reaction to those questions tells you everything. Because when institutions cannot answer, they attack the questioner. We've talked about this repeatedly. They smear, and the smear replaces substance, and volume and screaming replace proof. And for anyone starting out in this business, anyone, remember I started in 1988. This is 37 years. This is when Rush and talk radio was. I've seen this. This is nothing new. It's just there's just more of it because there's just a bigger platform. But in this business, this is the lesson you must tattoo on your brain. Do not mortgage your integrity to funding streams you don't control. Don't confuse audience manipulation with leadership. And do not let panic, albeit real, turn you into a contradiction machine. Do not believe your own hype, and do not underestimate the power of staying calm, telling the truth, remaining focused, looking at the facts, and letting your work stand, because audiences can smell fear, and they can smell honesty, and they know the difference, as do you. They know the difference, and they also appreciate, like you do, integrity and reality and authenticity, somebody who's really real. And what makes this moment so instructive is that Candace is not doing anything flashy. She's not yelling. She's not screaming. She's not threatening. I don't think she's ever uttered, maybe I'm wrong, a curse word. You know, I've got to tell you something. I'm old school. I don't ever engage in the N word, and I don't engage in the C word. And those are fighting words. And you just don't do that. And sometimes it's great to feign a little bit of heat, using the professional wrestling term, bringing the heat. It's a work, it's an angle. But this is jealousy. This is unglued hysteria. You know, she's not hinting at anything. She's not dangling mysteries. She's doing the boring, unsexy thing that actually lasts longer. That's important, which is stating facts and figures and observations and naming names, explaining procedures, trusting her audience to follow along, while Timmy looks increasingly unglued, like a man. She said one time in a very interesting quip, she says, you know, it's not testosterone, it's estrogen. Wow. He looks like a young man, like a little boy, arguing with himself, flipping positions, revising history, and hoping somehow that this noise will jumpstart that and cover the gaps. And we hear again from insiders, from folks, that financial pressures are real. We can understand that. that debts are real, and responsibilities are real, and that backers are gone, and that phones are not being, returned. And when money and when fame and all this goes away, and funding sources, perhaps, remember, this is, like, you hear a lot of stuff, and it happens in the business at all levels. The mask slips when that happens, because ideology without, in essence, funding turns into survival mode. And survival mode is where principles get bent and twisted. And that is when people lash out at safer targets or bigger targets or people who will generate attention. And Candace is that target. Only she refuses to play the game, to play the role, and to play that role which apparently seems to be assigned to her. And that refusal is devastating, because it makes the attacking seem all the more hollow and leaves the attacker alone with his claims and contradictions. And nothing is more dangerous, nothing is more sad and pathetic, very frankly. And nothing is more threatening to a narrative than isolation. And the more he talks, the more the story shifts. And the more it shifts, the more obvious stress becomes, and viewers can feel it, because trust erodes. Not when someone is wrong. That's not it. But when someone can't keep their story straight, or someone who really is not backed behind a cogent idea or a plan or observation or evidence. And the irony here, interestingly enough, is brutal, because the very thing that this young man once did well, which was slow down and ask questions and connect dots, has apparently been replaced by heat and posture and threat and language and screaming and profanity and what's with this celeritas speed speaking? Is that a replacement, a substitution for wit, for genius, for intelligence, for communication? Is that it? Have you noticed that? Maybe it's me. I like to do a couple of things. First, when I'm speaking to you, first of all, I want you to understand that I'm sincere, but I also want you to not be nervous when I'm speaking to you. I want you to be able to listen to me. I have no reason to speed through this. If you're speaking to a jury, if you're speaking to somebody, speak clearly. It's almost like you want to get through it before somebody realizes you don't know what you're talking about. And if you don't know what you're talking about, maybe you lay off the Adderall. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying some people I've known, when I've noticed this this again, celeritas type of speed, I always think, what's going on here? See, this is important. Audiences understand this. Audiences notice when learning and when facts are replaced by lecturing and normal curiosity is replaced by control. And Candace Owens, I'm telling you right now, remember, I always liked her, but I never, I don't really comment on people per se. I like a lot of people, but I like more of the stories than the person. But remember, what brought me to her is how they did and are doing to her what they did to me and what they've done to us, calling us crazy. Candace represents the opposite path right now, which is very interesting, which is why the attacks feel so unhinged and unglued and desperate, because they're not about security, they're about policy, and they're about truth. But in reverse, because they're not about policy, they're not about truth, they're not about actuality, they're about authority and obedience and obeisance or something else, and fear of losing control. Listen, we've seen this before. People come and people go, and people go. This is a tough biz, and steady is the victor. And when you understand this, you got to understand the narrative sometimes is combined with fear, not always fine, but it reveals itself through exaggeration and contradiction. And I'm telling you, you notice these things. There's one thing: don't lie to your audience. Don't lie to that camera. You can pick it up because you drop your tell. You drop your outgo. It's like there was a people who try to correct their posture. You can go up to the wall and do this stuff and put your shoulders against the wall and do. But after a while, you just start walking like you normally did. You forget what you're doing, and that's what's happening. And you will see that people who watch this, you can tell when they've forgotten what they're supposed to be doing, what their role is. When you strip away the personalities, this is a story as old as media itself. A collapsing operation lashing out at a stable one, a frantic voice attacking a calm one, and a calm one who wins by doing almost nothing at all. And that's the part, again, younger podcasters need to understand, and understand most, because success in this business ultimately is not about dominance, it's about sustainability and durability and consistency. And all that becomes discipline and honesty and the willingness to withstand pressure. And be yourself, whatever it is. If you are yourself, if you are who you are, listen, it may not be the most popular person in the world, but you know what? They're never going to catch you. They're never going to catch you off guard because you're always going to be speaking the truth. Withstand pressure without selling your soul. And right now, I say this again, Candace Owens keeps her audience, keeps her credibility, keeps her footing, and keeps her significant future, while Mr. Poole here looks like a man flailing for relevance, frightened, hoping somehow anything will stick, something, before the lights go out. And history is ruthless about which of those paths survive. This is critical. So understand right now, which is important, which is I think what we've enjoyed. And by the way, as I've said to you, normally I have avoided reading comments. They're brutal, and I never block them. I just, I don't want to necessarily indulge myself and saturate myself in negativity. But lately, your words, I thought I should have been reading these more often. They're wonderful. They're invigorating. And I want you to understand something. I am who I am. This is my style. That's it. And I love being, at its best, first of all, of course, entertaining. You when I mean entertaining, it's not like you're laughing. It's that you're not running from my words. But I want you to believe me, and I want you to believe what I'm saying, and I want you to think this is instructional. This is important. I've been doing this for a while. I've just been doing it. I'm a prosecutor. I'm a lawyer. This is what I do. And we always try to persuade people. We don't want to necessarily explain things. Explaining is not the problem, but we want to persuade people. And I've been doing talk radio, and remember, you have to, whatever your I don't want to say your shtick, but whatever it is, you've got to maintain it. And you can't, listen, you can change your mind sometimes. People will say this. It's very interesting. People will say, you didn't like her. I say, what is with this liking? I have said and gone on the record and advised, though I've never spoken with her, I'm very trepidatious about this litigation and about talking about this Brigitte Macron case. Not that it's not true. I'm talking from a legal point of view. A legal point of view. There's a lot of pitfalls there. We've talked about that. I think it's ill-advised. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about this. I'm sure you know it too. You love people. You have relatives. You have friends. Maybe spouses. I think the world of President Trump. I think the world of Alex Jones. And I can tell you things that I think they've done, which I think were sometimes a little stupid, sometimes boneheaded. But I don't lose my loyalty for them. They don't invalidate any legitimacy or validity in the future because they made a mistake or you disagree with something in the past. What is that all about? It doesn't make any sense. So understand, personalities to an extent are okay. What Mr. Poole has to do, everybody knows this, is like stick to your own show. Forget her. Because it's okay. I mean, if you want to attack, that's all right. But how long are you going to do that? How long? Even professional wrestling, which is I learned the most from being involved in that business. You can only bring heat so long. You got to change it. Sometimes you got to flip. Sometimes it's a heel. Sometimes it's a face. Sometimes back and forth. You can't keep hitting somebody with the same story because they habituate to it. They say, okay, next. We've seen this one before. Next. There's always the rematch. There's always you know what I'm talking about. I don't believe it, the point. So thank you for this. Thank you for this. Let me leave you with one particular thing, especially, and I keep saying to younger folks, because I think that I think it is incumbent upon us to try to counsel our younger brothers and sisters who are going to continue taking this off into the future, this very exciting piece of information platform. And that is very simply this. Be sincere, whether you mean it or not. It's an old joke. Be sincere. Be legitimate. Be authentic. That's all. Just speak the truth. You may be wrong. Don't ever be afraid to change your mind. John Maynard Keynes said, when the facts change, I change my mind. And also sometimes situations will change. I, growing up, for example, thought the Democratic Party that was a way to go when I was a kid. But it's not that I changed. They changed. The world changed. The facts changed. Things are very, very, very simple and very different right now. And it is incumbent upon us to remain in the position of being individual grand jurors. We need to investigate Charlie's death. We need to investigate this. We don't need the FBI. Sometimes our independent investigations, our Russell tribunals, to use that as an analogy, will be so great and so loud and so impressive that law enforcement authorities will have to answer our claim. In any event, thank you. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy everything to you and your family. And from the bottom of my heart, I say thank you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for liking these videos. Thank you for commenting. And I have comments afterwards. Thank you for being a part of this. Thank you for making this so invigorating for me. This is the most incredibly fascinating, protein, viable, organic opinion network I think ever constructed. It's like nothing else. And I thank you for that. And I wish you nothing but the best. Now, please subscribe. I've got some questions for you following. And comment, dear friends. Comment with your brilliance as you see fit.